Hey everybody, how's it going? This is another 40k role-playing game video for Deathwatch, which is the Space Marine game, and this is for people running the game, pretty much. I'll go into a little bit past that at the end of this video, but this is for people who, okay, I want to run this game, and people are like, okay, I want to play in that game. This is something I recommend for the Game Master. Now, all you really need is the core book to play a game. This Game Master's kit gives you a screen, and then I say a free little adventure, because really you're buying it for the screen. But as a Game Master, it's good to have the screen. Not every Game Master utilizes screens, and they have it for other role-playing games, but I'm a big fan of them. So anyway, we have the Game Master screen. This includes a Shadow of Madness adventure, and then in the back of it we have a appendix, which has NPCs in it, and then tips for building a mission, and things like that. So it's cool to have. The adventure that's in it is pretty cool. So that's nice. But really, that's like icing. I don't want to say it's like the icing on the cake, because some people really love their icing. It's an added bonus. You're really getting the screen is what you're buying it for, and the screen is worth it. So when it's facing the players, they get to look at some artwork. If I could speak properly for once in my life. We have a marine. We have a marine in a dire situation. We have the cover artwork of the core book, and then we have dude killing a chaos thing and a team of from Deathwatch. And when it sits somewhere like that, so you get the idea. They get to see that, and they don't see what you're doing as a game master. We open it up, and before I fully reveal it, this may be a little taboo to some game masters out there, but I'm doing this as a review for if you want to pick up the game master's kit or not. I'm semi-joking about the taboo thing. It's just that you rarely ever see the inside of a screen. So here we go. So everything you ever hoped for, because it's not that crazy. But when it's up like this, as you can see, where we're looking down at where we'll be rolling everything, it gives some privacy as a game master. And what's privacy good for? Well, if you want to randomize who's going to get hit by a terrible weapon, or who is going to be picked for a certain thing, or who you want to start with first, things like that. It's good for keeping certain roles private, so they don't know what you're rolling for. Also, keep certain NPC sheets hidden, so they don't know what they're going to encounter. Things like that. There is always the idea of fudging die rolls. I'm not a big fan of fudging your die rolls, because I think you should just roll honestly, and everybody should roll honestly. However, certain big bad bosses of a mission, of a campaign, let's say the campaign's reaching its climax, it's not the final showdown, but it's a very big critical showdown, and you're just doing terribly for this NPC. Like, this NPC should be really posing a problem for the players, and they're just doing well. Then people usually fudge some die rolls. Again, I don't want to talk about it here. I'm just saying the obvious, in that they can't see what you're doing. But I'm not really gonna go into fudging die rolls here, because I'm not a big fan of it. But the option is there. So what we have in this Game Master screen is a lot of reference charts, and that's all it is. It's reference charts, so you don't have to page through the book as often. Because one thing that takes up time, the biggest thing that takes up time, aside from just randomly going off on a tangent about a certain topic or whatever, the biggest thing that eats up time is looking for that rule, or looking for the chart for the damage or whatever it is. And the Game Master screen is there to really streamline that effect. So what we have, and I'll go through it pretty quickly, is we have test difficulty modifiers, hit locations, if you gotta randomize it for some reason, the critical tables, where they are in the book, weapon craftsmanship, what it gives you, and the idea of cover types and what it gives you. Then we have a ranged weapons table. This is for all the basic ranged weapons. Anything super specific, like a relic weapon, won't be here. But for the 98% of the things you're going to be using, or that your party is going to be using, will be in here. And then we have renown ratings and their rank, and we have a scatter diagram for like grenades and all that. Then we have combat actions. Basically, things they can do in combat. This is important to have. As you can see, it's things like charge, called shot, all-out attack, aim, overwatch. This is nice to have as a chart. It's in the core book, but it's nice to have it readily accessible for when you're doing a combat. For players who, let's say, are new to the system and don't know exactly what they can do, very helpful. Also for players who are not new to role-playing in this system or whatever, but just aren't clear on what actions they can take in a certain situation, this is good to have. Then we have weapon qualities, like what tearing means, which is down there, what storm means, snare, stuff like that. Very cool. So that's all very nice to have. And on the right two panels, we have melee weapons. So all the melee weapons are listed here. Again, the basic stuff, anything like a relic won't be listed here. But the basic stuff is right here, and that's really the most you're going to be using, so that's cool. Then we have combat difficulty summary and examples. So basically, if you're in a particular combat scenario and you don't know what modifier, if any, should be given, you can consult this summary and be like, okay, what they're facing is considered a massive target, and they get that bonus for it. It goes from easy down to very hard. Then we have weapon jamming. As you can see, as I tilt it like this, we have weapon jamming, 2 weapon fighting, using weapons without talent, and unarmed combat, and basically what happens in these scenarios. Then we have damage, what pages you can go to for that, the idea of fatigue, stunned, lightly damaged, heavily damaged, and blood loss. And then we have semi-automatic weapons fire, full automatic weapons fire, and what it gives. The idea of Overwatch, what it does, suppressive fire, pinning, what they do, multiple hits from semi and full auto fire, right there. We have movement, meters around. So if you're making up an NPC on the fly and they have an agility bonus of 6, you get to see what their movement is. We have armor. Again, the basics for armor doesn't go over power armor history, but it goes over what power armor gives, what certain armor gives. A nice little handy chart to have on the fly. Then we have hordes. Attacking a horde, damaging a horde, melee and blast weapons in relation to the horde. Excuse me. Always when I'm doing a video, I gotta clear my throat for some reason. Rest of the day, it's fine. Anyway, this, in conjunction with this, is what you get when you buy the Game Master's kit. It's a nice kit to have. It really is. Really, you're buying for the screen. This is just an added bonus, like I said. The screen, very nice to have. Very good for the Game Master to have. Not every Game Master utilizes a screen. I like it because I don't want to memorize everything. I don't. And you'll notice grenades weren't on there, like the ammunition stuff wasn't on there, so special issue ammunition or grenades or missiles were not in here. Would have been nice, but not that big in terms of priority. You can have the page open near there. Also, psychic powers and psychic abilities weren't covered here, like the idea of psychic abilities at all. But again, you can flip to that. Basically, it's not meant to cover everything. It's meant to minimize the amount of flipping through the book you have to do. Minimizes that so you have much more playtime for your players and much more fun instead of constantly going through the book. And it's not just for the Game Master either. If the player goes, how do I do this? Chances are, if it's something regarding a certain type of action with weaponry or in combat, it's going to be here. And you might be going, well, why is it always combat? Well, that's where you do the most rolling, to be honest. And even if they're doing a standard roll, like a charm test to try and command an Imperial Guard dude, or an intelligence test to try and understand something, you have that that test difficulty, if I could speak for once, the test difficulty chart right here. So if they're doing a particularly difficult task, it would be -10. If they're doing a elementary task, it's plus 50, it looks like. So it's not just for combat, but it covers a wide branch of what your players will be doing. The only thing it doesn't really cover is the special issue ammunition and grenade types and missile types, that little special issue type stuff, and it doesn't cover over psychic tests. Other than that, everything else is in here, and other than psychic abilities, really you're not going to be doing, and grenades, you're not going to be going too in depth on a lot of stuff if you think about it until they get the higher rankings, and by that time, everybody should be a little bit more aware of the game. Even if you've been running the game for a little bit, you'll get that much more aware just as you do it more and more. And then you will have to rely on this less, but it's still nice to have. Also, having it up like that, it keeps your NPCs or your little stuff you need for your mission. Let's say you have a little like chart or something down here that you just want to have so you don't forget something that they're supposed to be doing in the mission, and you have different alternatives depending on what they do. It keeps it out of sight from the players so they can't cheat, if you will, even if it's by accident, and see what's going on. Now, it's for the Game Master. I wouldn't recommend a player just getting it, bringing it to the game, and setting it up. It's going to potentially cause some problems. However, as a player, if you happen to own this because you too ran it at one point and now you're playing in it, you can bring it. And what you can do is you can bring it and leave it in the center of the table, just like this. And when something comes up and people are paging through, you can just flip it open and go, look, this is the combat actions we can take. This is what your weapon has in terms of quality. This is what it means. Instead of paging through the book, I just wouldn't set it up as a screen as a player, because as a player, your roles have to be obvious to the game master. They have to be able to see you rolling. And in the interest of fairness, so nobody is quote unquote cheating, but nobody should be anyway. Well, anyways, that's pretty much it for the Game Master screen. I think it's a very cool buy. I think it's worthwhile. You get an extra bonus of this little sample scenario, but it's at, and it's definitely a good investment to have. It really does cut down on time spent flipping through a book. If you think about it, a minute here, a couple minutes there, potential 5 minutes or so there, it equals more playing time, and more time had playing the game, spending time playing the game, having fun for both you and the players. And if you add it up over the course of a campaign, that's a lot of extra time of play. So that's pretty much it. I recommend getting it if you're going to be running a game specifically, and I recommend getting this on top, of course, the core book. I also mentioned Rites of Battle is nice to have, and so is First Founding. Depends what you as a game master want to do, but I recommend this on top of those two books, because if you're a game master, this will give you yourself a lot more of an easier time, and the other books just give you more stuff which just doesn't cover. This is not meant to cover those things. This is meant to cover the basics. So everything that's basic, the basic weapons you're going to be used in ranged and in melee combat, it covers. Anything super specific, like a special relic blade or a relic bolt pistol or whatever it is, isn't covered here because you're not expected to encounter it often. This is for things you're going to encounter often. So that's it. And until next time, take it easy.